Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Tout de Suite Social Club. Tonight I have the privilege of receiving again Kent Mirassou and Steven Kent Mirassou and Olson there. But tonight, we did a show about almost 6 months ago, and now we're doing another show for another winery that you have. It's called La Rochelle.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about the wines from La Rochelle. I want to acknowledge also people that are joining us from abroad. And we have Kim, Michelle, and Dan. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for joining. And I'm going to get back to you in a few minutes. And we do have also a group of friends, intimate friends that came up and joined because they just love the wine. So here we go. Steven, good evening, and thank you for coming. And La Rochelle is, I'm French. Just in case you haven't noticed, but La Rochelle is a town in France where I used to spend vacation when I was a kid. And what is the relationship with La Rochelle, and if there is any, and the name of your winery?
The town of La Rochelle.
Yes.
My family, my great-great-great-grandfather, Pierre Pellier, who was the first generation of the family to come to California and sort of start the Mirassou line of winemakers in California, came from a little town called Saint-Hippolyte.
Okay.
It was just inland from the town of La Rochelle. La Rochelle was a port town the family came through to get to California.
Okay.
So when my cousins started the La Rochelle brand in 2002, 2003, they named it for the town that my family came from.
All right.
So that's sort of the...
And how long ago was it?
1852, the first time when Pierre Pellier, my ancestor, came to San Jose. And then he went back to get great cousins and came back again in 1854. And that's sort of when we sort of count the start of the family's involvement in the wine business in California.
All right, fantastic. So we're going to be tasting some wine tonight, and you brought a couple of wines. We have a Chardonnay and a couple of Pinot Noirs.
2 different Pinots, yes.
And under the La Rochelle label.
Yes.
So we're going to start with the Dutton-Morelli Lane.
Yes.
And this is the 2010.
Just spectacular wine. So just to tell you a little bit about what La Rochelle's mission is, what it is we're concentrating our efforts on. When my family, the Mirassou family, sold the Mirassou brand to Gallo in 2002, we still had a winery in San Jose and still had vineyards in Monterey County. The family started this brand, La Rochelle, and it was really a tasting room only brand at the time. In 2005, one generation of the family owned the property under the winery buildings, wanted to sell it for houses.
Okay.
So the brand was going to be defunct. There was no place else for it to go. So one of my cousins called me and asked if I'd be interested in acquiring the brand. And after looking at it and what they were doing and the winemaking quality and that sort of thing, I said, yeah, let's bring that to Livermore, and we'll have a Monterey County brand, as it were, fruit brand, along with Livermore Valley Cabernet. Tom Stutz, who does the winemaking on the La Rochelle side.
Hold on, Sonny.
Yeah.
Who's the winemaker?
Okay. So the way things work where we are is that Tom Stutz has been making Pinot Noir and Chardonnay and Merlot and everything else that Mirassou Vineyards has done since 1982 up to 2002. Okay. He was the winemaker. And then he started making the wines for the La Rochelle project until and through the time that I bought the brand and moved it up to Livermore. Tom, when I talked to Tom about moving the brand to Livermore and asking him whether he wanted to be involved in the project, it was, look, I want to work with you. I want to learn from you. If we ever have a disagreement about a final blend, it'll be your call, because I was making the wines on the Steven Kent side. Yeah. Tom is a brilliant Pinot Noir and Chardonnay maker. I wanted him to have the freedom to make wines in the style that he thought was most appropriate for the vineyards that we were using.
No shit.
Yeah. So we taste all the time together. We taste through fermenters during crush and fermentation together every day. We taste wines, in barrel. He'll make mock blends. We'll taste them together. So we taste a lot together. Yeah. Generally speaking, we have similar ideas about what it is we want to accomplish with these wines. So, hey, hire good people, let them do what they do, and I concentrate my winemaking efforts on the Cabernet side, which is not what Tom does.
Okay.
Tom's on the other side of the spectrum. So it's a partnership in for the most part. But Tom, I've given Tom this sort of, here it is. It's your brand from a winemaking standpoint. We scout vineyards out together. We make decisions. I pay the bills. Yeah. but Tom's winemaking philosophy and decisions are what guide the finished product.
Because I would love this contest. Yesterday I put a contest on a Facebook page and talking about the wine and who was a winemaker, and Adam Cron from LA came up and really answered the question. So I was a little bit surprised who was the winemaker and who wasn't the winemaker. And so Adam, you want a T-shirt? Get in contact with us, and we can send it to you down to LA. I think you live in LA, so that's great. So with Tom and you, what is there any challenging moments, or because eventually you're the one writing the checks and you give him freedom to do a lot of things, but is there some moments where you kind of disagree a little bit, or not really?
Well, it's very much a collaborative effort, and it's very much a, Tom's taught me a lot about winemaking, and some of the techniques that he uses for small lot fermentation for Pinot, we do on the Cabernet side now, which we didn't do before. So I've learned a lot from him, and I would be foolish if I were to say, look, you've got 35 years of experience working at Hanzel and at Domaine Chandon and at Mirassou and now with La Rochelle, to just throw that aside because I've got 15 years of experience in the business. So I'm a lot of things. I don't tend to think I'm an idiot.
But 15 years in business, that's not to me too much, because you make wine for 15 times.
Right.
That's not you're not a banker. You are not you at the end of the year you're making one product.
Right.
So you're making 15 years is not a lot.
No, it's not. We make a lot of wine, so we get a chance to make a bunch of different things during the course of the year. So it's not only one harvest. It's on the Steven Kent side, God, it's probably 30 different wines we make in any given year with club wines and stuff like that. Tom and I will have sort of mild, not even disagreements really, just preferences. We work with a dozen different vineyards on the La Rochelle side. He may have a preference for a particular vineyard. We taste a lot together. We do a lot of events where we're pouring at Pinot days in various cities. And you
don't own any land. You buy the fruit.
All of the fruit for La Rochelle is sourced fruit. Livermore Valley is a warm growing area. It's not a Pinot area. So we source fruit from amazing vineyards all over California. And we taste fruit together. We taste samples together. We taste a lot of other people's wines together. He has his preferences. I have mine. Yeah. But my personal philosophy is, again, hire people who are really good at what they do. Let them work at what they do really well, and hopefully the wines will come out at the end the way we thought they would, and we'll have the opportunity of selling them.
Yeah. So I'm gonna.
It's not a very sexy answer, though.
No. But that's a fair answer. That's that's the way it is. It doesn't have to be pretty all the time and poetic. I know that I think Michelle and Dan drinking some white wine, and I'm wondering if you guys are drinking what we're drinking right now, and what are your thoughts on the wines?
This is the Chardonnay that we're drinking. So yes, we are in line with you right now.
Fantastic.
What do you think? Do you like it?
It's wonderful. Are you kidding?
We don't generally drink white wine, period.
And this is phenomenal.
It's a lovely wine.
It is. It's very well rounded. Has a very nice finish. Surprised. I'm not usually a Chardonnay drinker, and it's just very delightful. But it almost seems like it has fruit in it. So.
Sorry for that.
No, it's a good thing. I just think it's very unusual. I was not typically accustomed to that. Usually they're very oaky and stuff, and that's why I never really liked it very much. This is something I would drink with a very nice meal, and that's encouraging to me. I really enjoy it because I drink red wine, and when it's really hot in Livermore like this, it's difficult to love it when it's 95 degrees outside.
So you guys are from Livermore. So are you neighbors with Steven?
Sure, we live about 3 miles away from the winery.
And yet you're members as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. Because it's an opportunity to show up and pick it up in person and taste, and the people there are really wonderful. So it's an easy place to be a member, and the wines are such quality that we're never disappointed.
What about you, Kim?
Rochelle. They're good.
Thank you.
What about you, Kim? Where are you drinking right now?
I'm drinking in Pleasant Hill, and I'm drinking the Chardonnay, and I have to say it's very delightful. I too am not necessarily a Chardonnay drinker, but this has got such an amazing mouthfeel, and the acidity in this is just terrific. It's so different than the other Chardonnay that Steven does, his signature Mirassou, which is very different than this. But for
Steven
me,
is not making this wine though. Tom is.
That's why.
I do a Chardonnay. We do one Chardonnay from Livermore Valley, and the point about acidity is really important here. I mean, what I love about these wines, we did 3 Chardonnays. We did 3 different growing areas: Rosella's Vineyard from San Lucia Highlands, Dutton-Morelli Lane from Russian River Valley, and Farrington Vineyard from the Anderson Valley. So 3 different Chardonnay growing areas, 3 different clones of Chardonnay. What I love about these wines, all 3 of them, and they're very different in their own ways, is the vitality of the wines, the journey of the wine through the mouth. It's all about acid and fruit here. It's all about momentum. It's all about liveliness in the mouth to me. And I think that's the hallmark of great Chardonnay. Livermore Valley produces, historically, Livermore Valley is sort of the center of California Chardonnay with the Wente clone. Back in I think it was 1913, the first varietal labeled Chardonnay was done by the Wente family. Prior to that, it was called probably Burgundy or something like that. And then the Wente clone of Chardonnay became sort of the clone for 80% of the Chardonnay grown in California up until about 20 years ago. Yeah. So you see it everywhere. You see a lot of history of Livermore Valley kind of spreading its fingers all throughout the wine-growing regions, and it's one of those things that people don't realize. Yeah. The memories are short in the wine business, and especially from not especially, but also from a consumer standpoint. You hear Napa all the time, but there's a history in Livermore Valley for variety labeled wines and for gold medals in the Grand Prix and all kind of stuff. And
talking about that, and how Livermore perceive Napa Valley.
Well, I'll speak for myself. Yeah. I love Napa Valley. I love the fact that everything here is geared toward wine. Yeah. And if you love wine, what's not to like about that? I think that there's that, like every other growing region, that there are great wines and there are wines that are not that good. Yes. And I think that there's a certain pass that's given to wines from Napa. Let me put it a different way. If you have a Napa Valley appellated wine, already it's worth, X number of dollars more or points more than a Livermore Valley wine, even if it's terrible compared to Livermore Valley wine.
Fair or not?
Well,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Fair, tell me. Yeah, well, fair has nothing to do with it. I mean, what we're trying to accomplish is we're trying to make spectacular wine from the growing areas that we work, whether it's on the La Rochelle side where everything is sourced, but we're sourcing from passionate growers who are growing some of the world's best fruit, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, or whether it's our own wines on the Steven Kent side or on Lineage, which is our flagship Bordeaux blend. We're trying to make the world's greatest wine. That's what our goal is. That's what our mission is. It doesn't really matter where we are. Yeah. All it means is that when you taste Lineage, when you taste the Home Ranch Cabernet, when you taste the other vineyards that we do, you're tasting something spectacular. It just happens to be from Livermore Valley. That being said, I'm a kind of buff, history buff, as far as the wine business is concerned. The first great wines ever made in California were Livermore Valley wines, and nobody remembers that because it was before Prohibition. And
because the workforce was still living here in Napa.
That's right.
That was more educated and more economic. Yeah.
Well, back in the 1880s, when Livermore had more Bordeaux acreage planted, Bordeaux variety acreage planted than Napa did, and the first international gold medal ever given to a California wine was a Livermore wine. Napa really didn't have much of a wine industry. You know, it was more of a farming area and that kind of thing. And
that was the Wild West. I mean,
right.
Do you know that the last person hanged in California was here in Napa Valley? So hey,
it was a critic who didn't.
That was that's the Wild West.
It was the Wild West.
Yeah.
There's no question. And you know what people don't realize, and what we're trying to accomplish is just showing what we believe great wine to be. You know, our winemaking philosophy married to the fruit that we're getting and trying to make great wine. That's really what it's all about.
So, ladies and gentlemen watching and not logging in on camera, if you have any questions, please tweet us at @ToutSocial or at La Rochelle Wines, and we'll make sure that we answer all those questions here. Gentlemen, you guys are tasting the Chardonnay here. What do you think? Come on, I have like a bunch of snobby Napans here.
Yeah, guys.
One at a time. Come on. What do you think?
Well, I like that this wine has a really strong mineral side to balance off against the citrus side. Mm-hmm. So too much of the time it goes one way and it's missing other components. But here we've got floral stuff as well as citrus and the mineral. So I'm very happy with this.
Yeah, that's a nice wine.
Hyde selection of the Wente clone is what the fruit is from this particular vineyard site. Thank you, Rich.
Is this like a Dijon?
No, it's a Wente. It's Hyde selection. So it's Larry Hyde got a Wente clone, you know, and propagated that, and that's what this is. This is a really kind of a cool vineyard in that it's in Green Valley, so it's near Occidental.
Oh, okay. The smallest AVA in Sonoma County.
Green Valley of Russian River Valley, Sonoma County. Got to put that on your label. Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, and a little bit of Zinfandel growing on the site back in the 1930s. So the original owner of the vineyard loved Zin for whatever reason and planted that there. So Dutton Goldfield uses the Zin from that site to make Zin for their label, and we do a little bit of Chardonnay, and I think it's just a wonderful vineyard.
Yeah. Zinfandel helps make everything better.
Or alcohol does, one of the two.
that's really delicious. I mean, that's a nice wine. I mean, I really enjoy that. And what is the price point of this one here, the Winery?
We made 115 cases approximately.
Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Okay.
First vintage, $65 a bottle.
All right, fair enough.
Small production.
Fair enough.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks.
What if I were to say to you that, you know, if a winemaker, one of Napa Valley, would go to Livermore and raise the level of winemaking in Livermore because it's from Napa, bringing more attention to it. How you feel about it?
I'm a fan of anybody coming to Livermore, whether they're from Napa or Sonoma or Cucamonga, doesn't really matter, who raises the level of wine making in the valley. I think that we're going through a renaissance in the valley now that is really, I think, you know, when we started our mission, when my dad and I started the Steven Kent Winery, our mission was to make one of the world's great red wines from Cabernet-based wine. And we felt that the Livermore Valley was every bit as capable of growing that kind of fruit as any region in the world that specialized in Cabernet.
Yeah.
And so we have known for a long time that the region was suited for those varieties, the Bordeaux varieties. And I think that we've done a good job and continue to do a good job, and hopefully a better job every year of raising the quality of winemaking and the perception of the quality of winemaking from Livermore Valley. That being said, you know, from a marketing and sales standpoint, we'd love to have somebody come from, you know, some great winemaker, big name winemaker from Napa or wherever else, come to Livermore and say, man, these guys who are making wine here knew what they were talking about.
Because you don't get the recognition of in this region. I mean, like, you know, there is a little like a following you talk about Sonoma, you talk about Napa, you talk about Paso Robles, you know, you start to talk maybe about Mendocino to some extent, you know, but, you know, Livermore is still, like, you know, in the far back, and you're looking at reviews and not a lot of people are really talking about that part of
No, I have written about and I've talked about often, that although Livermore was really the first they weren't appellations then, but it was the first growing area that really made the first great wines in California.
Wente and
prior to Prohibition. after Prohibition, when the industry was a small industry, when my family started marketing the Mirassou Vineyards name in 1966, there were a dozen premium winemakers in California, premium wineries in California. It was tiny. Now they're about 1,500 wineries or whatever there are on the wineries in California. So it's a much different time now. We lost the marketing battle to Napa Valley from a Cabernet standpoint and a quality wine standpoint, way back in the day. Livermore was geared toward making white wines, making Petit Syrah, really good Petit Syrah and good white wines, but
it's warm there,
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm going to disabuse you of your what you think is the right thing when it's really not the right thing. You've been to St. Helena before, right?
Yeah, okay. In Calistoga too.
And Calistoga too. So in the daytime, in the height of summer, it'll be 100 degrees in St. Helena, 102 degrees in Calistoga. It's 100 degrees in Livermore. It's no hotter. Mm-hmm. And because Livermore is an east-west oriented valley with its mouth at the bay, we get air from the bay sucked in every afternoon through Livermore. It really changes the temperatures dramatically, 30, 35 degrees from daytime to nighttime.
It would be like Napa too.
But faster and earlier in the day.
Oh, is that right?
Right. So, you don't get the same exact kind of airflow through the northern end of the valley here we get to the eastern end of our valley. Yeah. So we have fewer degree days than St. Helena does. Yeah. We're actually a colder area than St. Helena, and certainly a lot colder than Calistoga. In terms of temperature differentials and the like. It's perfectly suited for Cabernet. Yeah. It's as suited for Cabernet as Napa Valley is. We don't have some of the drastic kind of changes in terms of elevation that you have in Howell Mountain and that kind of thing here, Mount Vita, that sort of thing. But we are a valley that's, we start at 500 feet above sea level and we go to 1,000. So we're already, significantly higher than the Napa Valley floor. Yeah. Just in our valley floor. Yeah. So Livermore, that's one of the things that we try to talk about. You think it's not the Central Valley. This is a Central Coast appellation. And it has great daytime ripening, great acid retention fruit in the evening, and that's one of the things that allows us to do, on the Steven Kent side, I think these really beautiful, elegant Cabernets, which is what our style is and the kind of wines that I like.
So let's move on to suck it up, drink it. Let's which one we start next?
Let's do the Soberanes first.
Okay. So the next one is Soberanes Vineyard from the Santa Lucia Highlands. And so how many cases that you made?
We did again about 120 cases of this.
Jeez.
So
Can you make a living on doing so many liter cases?
Well, we're trying. Sometimes my controller doesn't think so. Yeah. Generally what we do when we're working with a vineyard for the first time, we buy 2 fermenters worth of fruit. So we ferment everything that we do in small bins, like 1.5 ton fermenters, open top plastic fermenters, basically. Mm-hmm. And we want to try out the vineyard before we make too large a commitment and before we know what it is we're doing from a fruit standpoint. What's neat about this vineyard is it's a brand new site. This is, you've heard of Gary's Vineyard, right? And Rosella's Vineyard.
Sure.
So the Pizzonis and the Franchionis, who are the owners of those 2 vineyards, got together and planted Gary's Vineyard 15 years ago, whenever it was. They planted another vineyard called the Soberanes Ranch Vineyard, which is right next door. So it's planted in the same soil, a very loamy, kind of a Arroyo Seco loam is what it's called. And they planted it to several different clones of Pinot. Gary's is all Pizzoni clone Pinot. There's a number of different clones, including some Dijon clones planted at Soberanes. Our fruit the first year was Pizzoni clone. So the clone that has gotten a lot of attention and produces a really brilliant, dark raspberry, dark cherry, really neat mouthfeel to the wine is what is the fruit in this particular offering.
So you guys are do you have a long-term contract with those grape growers, or how does that work?
We do. But generally speaking, when we first start out, we'll do a year-to-year contract. Okay. And then as we get to know the site, as we determine the site's going to work for our program, we'll try to enter into 3-year evergreen contracts. Mm-hmm. So that kind of basically means that unless someone gets really upset or something happens to the business or what have you, that you're going to end up getting that fruit in perpetuity, basically. Right?
Can you ask Kim a question?
Do what? Yes, Kim. So have you had a chance to try this one year?
I did. I'm trying this right now, and this is the first time that I've actually tried this particular Pinot, though I've tried most of Steven's because I'm a huge fan. And this, I have to say, is awesome. It has got such a huge mouthfeel, and I can just smell the minerals. You know, you can smell where this is coming from. I mean, with one smell, you can tell where this is coming from. That it's coming from the valley, and it's got great dark fruit on it, and the finish is amazing. This is a very big wine, so exactly what I like. I love this. I think this is terrific.
Kim, you've had the Gary's Vineyard wines that we did back in 2003, 4, 5, and 6. Do you find a similarity between
I really
those
do.
wines and this wine?
I do. You can smell it more than anything else, and that was the first thing. The first smell that I took, I had to do a double take and make sure that I really had the right wine, because I thought it's different. It's definitely different for me. This is definitely, I think, even a more acidic, more mineral than the Gary's for me. I wouldn't say earth, because it's not really earth. It's just kind of the feel of where it's coming from. But I can tell that there is it's a cousin of Gary's, I guess is the best way to say it. But this is amazing. The dark fruit. I have a friend who snuck in and won't get on camera, and she's looking at me, she goes, and I can't taste the fruit in this at all, it really strikes me very strange, because I can taste the dark fruit in this.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you certainly have the right glass. So Kim, tell me a little bit of what kind of a meal will you be preparing around this 1 year?
That's a good question. It's just so, it almost like it catches me when I get it. It's just, and like I say, it's not earthy. It's I don't know that I can really describe it other than it's like that.
But will you go like
rocky, almost rocky, almost like it's coming from like a Mount Veeder or something where you go through the rocky soil. It's almost kind of like that, but more of a mineral rock, like a volcanic soil almost, but not quite. That sort of feel is what I get from this.
But you're looking at a white meat, red meat. What kind of a meat will go with that? Or fish?
It should be red meat all day long. Oh yeah.
Well, let's go and see with Michel and Dan, because I think Dan is like a bit, red meat eater. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing, And so, what kind of meal will you prepare around that wine? Are you drinking the same wine?
I am. And first, I should say I can understand what Kim's friend is talking about not being able to taste the fruit. The fruit is there, but the sweetness that you often get with fruit is not apparent, which makes it really wonderful. I think this would go great with salmon, if I had to pair it with something.
Salmon? So like a grilled salmon?
A grilled salmon, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a red meat eater as well, but I've been in restaurants for 25 years. I've been pairing things for a long time. And I think this would go wonderful with the grilled salmon.
Fantastic.
Something with very little seasoning.
I think salmon would go really well with this. I'm thinking like something simple like just a sort of grilled pork tenderloin and grilled fresh vegetables. I think that there's a weight to this wine that works really well with richer dishes, and there is a lot of fruit there too. And I agree with Dan. It's not particularly sweet, but there's nice tannin there. It's a young wine. I just think that this wine works well with salmon, works well with pork. Duck would be fabulous. Kind of Asian spiced duck sort of thing. I'm the worst guy though for food pairing. Because what happens in my house? So I'll just describe it very briefly. Yeah. I have half open bottles of wine because I've been out in the street pouring wine. Yeah. And I could have 2 Pinots, 2 Cabs. I come home to the house. I said, my wife June. I said, June, what do we have to cook? oh, we've got the darkest piece of meat you can have. I said, perfect. That goes with Pinot, or that goes Cab with this, with the lightest white fishes. Whatever happens to be in the refrigerator cook goes with Cabernet. Generally speaking. I don't really think a whole lot about it, but when people know what they're doing, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of. I mean, all that, I think that there is a science beyond that, there is. And I really enjoy that. Let me ask you this question here: with all the wineries that you run and own, and the knowledge that you've been developing for those many years, what do you think, in your opinion, what do you think is what you have that no one else has? As far as knowledge, what do you get out of that? I mean, that.
I can tell you, then I have to kill you.
But shoot.
I think a lot about, what from a marketing and storytelling standpoint, which is, I think, really what differentiates one wine from another. We're in a kind of a golden age of wine right now for consumers. There's really not much bad wine out there. I mean, there's wines at every price point that are if not exactly delicious, they're certainly drinkable. And you've got more delicious wine being made out there now from all over the world than you've ever have had. I think I think the thing that we have that nobody else has is that we're the oldest winemaking family in the country. We've been making wine longer than anybody else in the U.S.
But that's a marketing aspect of it, right?
True.
But I'm more like looking for an answer more like into the winemaking aspect of it.
Well, I think I think that there's probably fewer. There are fewer secrets out there, fewer proprietary techniques or whatever out there than there are, people who have a love of and a love for and a knowledge of kind of their area, their growing area. We're trying to accomplish something on the Steven Kent end of our portfolio and the lineage end of our portfolio that nobody in Livermore has ever tried to do before. I look at the first growth Bordeaux houses. I look at the great Inglenook's wines of the 1940s in California. I look at Harlan Estate. I look at Ridge Montebello as my models for what it is that I want to accomplish at the end of my career, what I want to have accomplished at the end of my career. I think that view doesn't really exist in Livermore. I think it exists in Napa because I think that there are people who have been here for a long time who understand that they've gotten advantages that are region-based and not necessarily personally based.
Yeah.
They've got the Napa Valley advantage, right? Yeah. They've been able to make wines from a great area, but have those wines talked about a lot more than we do in Livermore Valley, just because they're Napa.
Yeah.
Good wines, but nothing that would be way beyond what anyone else could accomplish. And what I'm proud of our efforts in that we found an area and we talk about an area every day and we live with this area every day, and it's part of our DNA now.
Sure. Yeah.
That is a special place. Yeah. That not everybody knows about. And so from that perspective, I mean, it would be similar to somebody from Paso Robles who says, I'm going to make the best Rhone blend that there exists. Yeah. Same kind of a thing. They can do great Rhone varieties down there. We think we can do, world-class, spectacular Bordeaux varieties and blends, and that's what we're going to do.
I probably,
that's a tough question, by the way.
Well, actually, I'm going to go back with Michel and Dan and Kim, and I'm going to ask you a little bit the same question here. And the question is, what is the most important to you? Why do you belong to La Rochelle Club? Is it the quality of the wine? Is it the people beyond that? Is it a combination? What comes first, the quality, the people, or it has to be 50-50? Or the quality doesn't have to be that good, but the quality of the person has to be incredible. You're smiling.
We joined a number of years ago when actually Kim and I went out. in 2000 and fell in love with the wines at Steven Kent because of the people and the quality. The flavor was immediately apparent. The quality of the wine was immediately apparent. For someone who had just started drinking wine, I was fascinated by how incredibly complex and yet easy to drink these were for somebody who was brand new to this, right? I mean, I just started drinking cabs and I wasn't very familiar. And then when, I had a really hard time finding Pinots in this area that were really good, because Pinot to me is either really good or really terrible, and there doesn't seem to be much in between. And, Kim and I were just amazed at the robustness and the long finish for a Pinot was surprising. And so that I fell in love with. But the people there are just so nice. It just makes it so, it differentiates it from Napa so significantly, because you find a lot of pretension with some of the wineries in Napa. They've been around a long time. They're pretty proud of themselves. There's a lot of ego, right? There's a lot of ego there, I'm just going to say. So I found this to be really sort of a humble winery, and yet very proud of themselves at the same time. And that to me was really impressive. And the wines were so good as a whole, not here and there like some wineries, it was like, okay, 5 wines I tasted, 5 wines are outstanding. That to me was huge. And so we signed up immediately, and it's just been, there's been no regret whatsoever. The wines are great. And, Steven's just he's very engaging. It's easy to understand the wine because there's no, why don't you understand what I'm talking about? Like, he's happy to explain it. And I think that's really great for people like me who just love it, but try to figure out exactly what I love about it. And that to me is a good thing.
All right. Kim, can you hear something like different?
She's muted.
Yeah, she's muted.
A lot longer than, drinking wine, a bit longer than Michelle, only because I had to early in my career. I was in sales and I had to take people out, and so I learned how to like wine by accident almost.
What kind of sales were you doing?
I was doing multimedia sales, so absolutely nothing to do with wine, but I had to take clients out to dinner all the time, and they always ordered a bottle of wine, and this is when I was just out of college, and I had absolutely no palate whatsoever. So finding Steven Kent was amazing, and his wines were delicious. And as we got to know the folks there, and we got to know Steven, one of the greatest things about going to Steven Kent or La Rochelle to go tasting is a lot of the times you'll actually see Steven there, and he'll come over and talk to you, and I can be absolutely honest about how I feel about the wines, what I like, what I don't, what I think, and we can have a debate and a conversation, which we have on many occasions, about what I like, what I don't like, the different varietals that he may have, but he actually listens to what I have to say, and I can see long-term changes because of some of the things that myself and other people have said to him about what he does. But I believe that he's right in hiring the right people for the job, because his staff is amazing. But you have to have great wine in order to keep people coming back. And as long as I've been coming back, the reason I come back is, yes, the stuff is great, but without great wine, and they have consistently great wine. And the thing that I love about Napa is, yes, it's not as pretentious necessarily as Napa can be, but Livermore, it can't live on its name alone or its reputation, which is some of what happens in Napa. Some of the wines just kind of go downhill in my book because they don't spend enough time trying to make sure their wines stay great. What is always done, we can always do, and it'll always be good. Whereas it seems in Livermore they spend more time and attention every year, every vineyard, every wine, making sure it's great, and that shows through crystal clear.
That's cool.
That's fantastic. So we're going to move along. We're going to move to thank you, Kim, and Michelle, and Dan, absolutely. And we're going to move along to the 2010 La Rochelle, the Donum Estate from Carneros, Sonoma County.
Yes. Spectacular place. Spectacular people.
And the gal has some incredible reviews, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is like, fucking amazing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think that I want to emphasize in talking about the La Rochelle project is we've had the wonderful fortune of working with some amazing growers. It really is a partnership. If you don't have great fruit to begin with, you're going to have less than great wines.
Yeah.
We know this. I mean, it's a truism at this point in time, right? It's cliche, but it is true. We've been able to work with some amazing people. Passion is something that is a quality in people that is undervalued, I think, sometimes. I think that, you really can't do great things unless you're passionate about what it is you're doing and focus on what it is you're doing. And the people we work with on the grape growing side are passionate people. They want to make great fruit. Yeah. This particular project, the Donum Estate Project, you mentioned their brand, and they've done an amazing job. Anna Molaraki, who is the vineyard manager, the viticulturalist, and president of that brand, is an incredibly gracious woman and really, really good at what she does. Yeah. And we talked with her for a couple of years, 2007 and 2008, about trying to buy fruit. We were kind of hooked up through a mutual friend, a guy who knew Tom, really liked Tom's wines a lot, and said, well, I think Anna might have some fruit, and she's looking to work with people who are really passionate about what they're doing on their end. And it took us till 2009 to finally get grapes. In 10 is our second vintage from that site. The Donum selection, so it's not clonal like it is with the Soberanes. This is a bunch of cuttings from a vineyard, kind of migrated from France up to Anderson Valley and back down to Carneros in the late 80s. And so we don't really know what the clone of the vineyard is. Yeah. It's multiple clones. But it produces a really spectacularly gorgeous wine.
We have a Twitter question.
Oh,
keep going.
Oh, beautiful. There's a little bit of an austerity to this wine compared to the Soberanes that I like a lot. Yeah. There's a little bit of a different fruit component as well, but there's just a gorgeous kind of shape to the wine that's really neat. Twitter away.
All right. Well, we have a lot of Twitter activity going on, and most people are saying, how cool, awesome, love the wine. But we do have a question. Okay. And it's from, it looks like Rachel, and I think her first name is Rachel. It's interesting because she says, how did you come up with the name La Rochelle?
La Rochelle is, thank you, Rachel, for the question. La Rochelle is the name of a port town north of Bordeaux. It was sort of the center of the Huguenot resistance to the Catholic Church back in the 1600s in France. And my family, in the mid-1850s, early 1850s, came from a little town just inland called Saint-Hippolyte and left through La Rochelle, the town of La Rochelle, on a ship to come to California. So they take the ship around Cape Horn in South America to California. So very long voyages. But so it's sort of an homage to the family birthplace in a certain sense. And it kind of falls trippingly from the tongue, I guess. Yeah, Rochelle, that's a beautiful story. Define to me, or for me, or for us, the definition of a luxury wine. What a luxury wine is? Wow, that's a great question. Okay. What's a luxury wine? Oh, God, that's really good. Well, there's certainly in the marketplace, there's kind of a definition based upon price points. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember exactly what the gradation is, but it's something, let's say it's above $30 retail. Okay. But in my mind, what a luxury wine is a wine that is a wine that delivers more than the sum of its parts, that it's an emotional experience in a certain way. Mm-hmm. It not only has great balance, it doesn't have just great tannin and great acid and great length and great fruit and the integration of wood and tannin in a wonderful marriage. There's something about it that's more profound than that. There's something about it that is opulent. Something about it that speaks to the sort of emotional core of the wine drinker. When I think of wines that have touched me, and I think of them in terms of luxury wine, I think of them in respect to where I had them, who I had them with, the experience built around the wines. But the wines were also phenomenally integrated, beautifully constrained, restrained, showing all that they ought to, but having a kind of a parentheses of intent and structure around them. Yes. So they weren't just this sort of, pie in the face. It was more about a real vision from a winemaking standpoint that I want to create this with this fruit.
Okay.
And I want to have. So my winemaking philosophy is going to be the parentheses around the structure of the wine. That's kind of how I view it.
Sure.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. Michelle, then, do you have any definition of what is a luxury wine? Luxury wine is like defined by, a dollar sign, or this is about an experience or a special bottle, a moment? What is it for you guys?
We've had many debates with our friends who don't necessarily drink wines from a varied price perspective, let's put it that way. And they have this flat-out statement of, you know what, I can't tell the difference between a $40 bottle of wine and a $100 bottle of wine. And they'll say this a lot, right? And I don't know that it's necessarily flavor because, frankly, there are some really good wines, say, for instance, in Napa that are, say, $75 to $80 a bottle. But it might be just because it's Napa and because of tradition, like Kim was saying. They've been around for a long time, and therefore they can charge this amount and all of that. For me, it is an emotional experience. It's a silly thing, but frankly, when I get a wine that it sort of takes over my face, like it's a party in my mouth kind of thing. And I actually find myself getting giddy when I drink it. I go, ooh, this is really good. That's the kind of thing that doesn't happen very often. And when it does, I remember it very vividly. We just went to Miami for my birthday and had the 2007 Lineage during a phenomenal dinner. And it was a completely memorable experience from every respect. It was the wine itself was incredibly sophisticated. It could be consumed by itself or with a meal. We had it with filet, and it was ridiculously amazing because the finish was incredible, the structure was amazing. It just completed everything that I was doing, and that to me is memorable. That's what I think a really great wine should do. And I love when you taste it when it's opened and it transforms into an adult within an hour or 2 hours or whatever the length of time you need for it to mature. And it just is it's a very sophisticated feeling. I feel like I'm experiencing a transformation, and to me that is everything about a wine. That's why I like red wines so much more than white wines, because they don't quite do that. And I love cabs, especially the ones from Steven Kent, because they have this sophistication that just explodes, and I love that so much that it's an emotional experience. I get really silly about it.
Dan, she's like, that's like, my God.
Thank you.
How about you, Kim? Very quickly, what do you think of you to finish up a luxury wine?
What do you think, Dan? Sorry.
If you can enjoy a wine and just get that sort of feeling where you just settle down in your seat and go, that is a luxury wine.
Fair enough. How about you, Kim?
It's true.
It's very simple and...
Luxury wine has anything to do with price. I think for me it really is all about the experience, and it's, what it does to you while you drink it. If it's I agree. I mean, Steven had great points. Michelle and Dan both had great points. I agree. It's not price. It's really what the wine does when you drink it.
So I'm glad to hear that there isn't any dollar sign, attached to that. That's all about the experience, and we just have to, the wineries have just to show you some good time, and it's gonna be good as long as you feel good. What is the tweet question?
Oh, you want it now?
Yes,
okay.
please.
You sure?
Yes.
You sure?
Andiamo.
You feeling ready?
Come on.
Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, the question from Twitter, and thank you again for asking your questions via tweet, if you're too shy to join on camera. Anyway, it's about what are the challenges of sourcing grapes as opposed to growing grapes, if any?
That's a great question. Wow, great question. There's always an issue of control when you're making wine, and obviously, it starts with the fruit in the vineyard. The reputation of the grower is really important in terms of our desire to work with that person to make a La Rochelle wine, or to source a specific Cabernet from Livermore Valley, let's say for Steven Kent. When you're growing your own fruit, you're in the vineyard all the time. And you're walking up and down the roads, you're tasting fruit all the time, from before veraison, through veraison, and until harvest. Because of the kind of nature of La Rochelle, when we're sourcing fruit from Anderson Valley, which is about 150 miles north of Livermore, down to the Santa Lucia Highlands in Monterey County, which is about 120 miles south of us, we log a lot of miles, and we can't be in the vineyards as often as we would be if they were our own, if they were local. So we really have to trust that the grower is kind of following a protocol that we've kind of agreed to, is giving us the right data about sugar and pH levels and total acidity levels and all that sort of thing on a timely basis. So it really does kind of come down to a control issue, but it really is the company you keep. You know, if you're working with great people, there's less worry about what you're going to end up with ultimately. Good question.
So, sorry. We have another Twitch question coming up.
Wanted to yourself.
Where is it?
He said to give it to you.
Well, read it. Okay. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, control. Yeah. Okay. This is from James Taylor. And James is logging in from British Columbia, Vancouver. And there it is. See? He says, who do you consider your peer group in the Pinot Noir world?
That's a loaded question, James. Thank you.
James, that was a stupid question. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, man.
You know, gosh, you know, I could tell you I could give you the immodest answer. I think there are there are a number of really great Pinot Noir producers out there. I'll just sort of give you who I really like a lot. The Fela folks, Aaron Jordan's doing a spectacular job. Some of the Costa Brown wines are really nice. I think that the wines that Morgan makes from the Santa Lucia Highlands are gorgeous wines. Morgan.
Morgan.
Morgan
Winery.
Morgan Winery down
I'm
in
sorry.
Santa Lucia Highlands.
Yeah.
We don't source fruit any further south than Soledad, or Santa Lucia Highlands, let's say. Santa Rita, so far anyway. The Santa Rita Hills for me is a better Chardonnay area than it is Pinot area, personally speaking. So I don't look at Sea Smoke and I don't look at the wines from Buellton and Lompoc in the same way. I like Santa Maria Valley wines a lot. But
you give us some names.
Well,
no, some regions.
Well,
I mean,
okay,
the question
so Fela. I think that some of the Morgan wines are spectacular. I be perfectly honest with you, and you take it with a pound of sand. I think Tom Stutz is as great a Pinot Noir maker as there exists. Tom Stutz, who makes the wines for La Rochelle, is as good a Pinot Noir maker as there exists in the New World. He has been making wine, Pinots for 30 years plus.
It's not sure ask for a raise. You have a question?
Yeah.
Come in.
Okay. So you were saying earlier about comparing Cabernet for Napa Valley versus the Livermore Valley. You were talking about the temperature differential through the day. And I'm wondering, with that temperature differential and the differences, say, in mist or fog, do you have for those vineyards in the Livermore Valley, do you have more hours of luminance in the growing season, and do you have more days in the growing season?
And that's a geeky question.
The Livermore Valley doesn't really get much fog during the growing season.
That's what I thought.
We'll get it, after harvest. We'll get it in the springtime. It's really more about tons of luminescence. Lots of solar energy into the fruit all the time in Livermore. I think what differentiates, what sort of mitigates against heat and the like, and that solar luminance in the daytime is the wind coming through, the temperature drops that are 30 to 35 degrees during the evening times was really kind of what allows for both that photosynthetic ripening, sugar production during the day, and acid retention in the evening. Not the same sort of thing that you might get from the Santa Lucia Highlands for Pinot, for instance. So Monterey County, that area of Monterey County, has maybe the longest season of any growing area in the world. It's a function of wind there. It's a function of a lot of fog during the morning and being above fog line or not being above fog line, and how long that you actually have sunlight before the winds that come from Monterey Bay down the, come roaring down the valley, shut the stomata down and stop photosynthesis. That's an area that's much more weather related and much more related to morning fog and the like than Livermore Valley's a growing area is.
That's a great story to understand more about. I think we should take it offline afterwards because I don't want to eat up.
Yeah, I mean, we keep going, and definitely.
Thank you.
So another question for you. So what is really what is the one thing that really pisses you off? And it can be like a relation with a grower. It can be like marketing. It can be whatever. What is really the annoying? What is like the thing that really
So here's where your needs butt up against my protectionism. What pisses me off?
No,
questions like that piss me off. God damn it, darn it.
Yeah, we're gonna get to me, but we're gonna get to Michelle after that.
Okay, here's what is frustrating. It doesn't piss me off exactly, because I know.
Fair enough.
I know the expectation.
Fair enough.
So when I'm working with distributors in other states, other than California, you hire a distributor to help you sell your wine, right? Yeah. To help you get the word out about your brand because you can't be there all the time.
Well, I can answer the question for you and just unleash it, and protect you.
Well,
I could do that.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That's a difficult relationship. And it's hard, and I understand how it's difficult for them too, but that's the most frustrating thing of being in the business, is that you're working constantly to make great wine, and you want to bring your wine out to a larger world, and yet people say who want you there, they say anyway, but when it comes down to it, there's always larger fish in the frying pan than us. So that's a frustration. I'm not pissed about it.
So how you pick a distributor?
That's a great question. We have kind of a little machine, like a little Turing machine, that we put this question through. We're only in 4 or 5 markets. We're in the city of Chicago, we're in the city of New Orleans, we're in the city of Washington, D.C., we are in Maryland. So Maryland, D.C., Delaware, and we're in Las Vegas, and then we're in California. And we choose to go to markets where we have a relationship of some sort, whether it's family, whether it's past work, whether it's an enthusiastic distributor who's worked with the brand before, who really does actually work the brand. As we grow certain projects like Lineage, we're going to need to rely on distributors more than we are right now. And with the La Rochelle wines, the same sort of thing. We really want our distribution partners and broker partners to embrace this fully and go out, and some of them do. Our Southern California, San Diego broker's fabulous. They're doing a great job for us. And actually, the distributors we're working with now, Glaziers in New Orleans and Southern Wine and Spirits in Las Vegas, are doing a really nice job for us. And Lanterna Wines in Maryland, D.C., and Vino in Chicago.
But the quality of the wine, like a monkey can sell us wine.
Well,
I mean, come on. I mean,
that's thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
I mean,
it's a huge marketplace. It's a crowded marketplace. Wine buyers can only see so many people during the course of the day. There's a lot of brands out there. It's about telling the right story. It's about us being able to talk and recreate this experience over and over and over again in the marketplace. And so it requires a lot of effort and time, but it's good effort and it's good time. Yeah. Because, ultimately, if you create the right relationships, they're long-standing relationships. Sure. So they will pay dividends. It's like an annuity, right?
Sure. Susan?
So the final question, because it's 7 o'clock.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Yeah,
but,
well, we can continue the show.
Yes.
We can continue
So,
the show,
what is
but
the question?
we'll let everybody off the hook. Michelle and Dan have a question. They had to write it in because
Cindy was talking.
No. Please.
Yeah.
So Michelle and Dan want to know, and they may be in a second. What's your favorite La Rochelle wine of 2012? 2012?
Wow.
2010.
2010.
2010.
Don't say they're all great. We all know they're all great. I'm just saying, like, which one?
No, I mean, there is a there.
Pick one. Come on.
Okay, so I'll tell you a very quick story about what should have been my favorite wine. Actually, okay. Anyway, so we had a vineyard in Anderson Valley called Deer Meadows. That was it's a spectacular growing area. It's up in 1,700 feet above sea level, and Tom made a spectacular wine from this. And something kind of happened during its aging, so its élevage in barrels, where it lost or lost is maybe the wrong word. It misplaced it's just razor focus of acid and lightness of fruit. It was magical. It was one of the great Pinots I've ever had. And there was something about its kind of middle growing up. It's sort of toddler stage, I guess, where it was beautiful still, but it didn't quite have that same kind of razor edge to it. It's reclaiming that in bottle, though. So that's what I love about that, is that, the wine's a living thing. It changes. What you think may be a disaster early ends up being a triumph at the end, and sometimes the opposite happens. But this wine is, another year from now, is going to be right back where it was at the very beginning. But my favorite wine from La Rochelle in 2010 is probably the Farrington Vineyard Chardonnay, frankly. I just think that's a spectacular Farrington Anderson Valley Chardonnay. In barrel was one of those real magical wine drinking experiences for me. And frankly, I don't know whether Tom would agree with me. I think Tom's a better Chardonnay maker than he is a Pinot maker.
So you have it. And this one will be available just for the members.
No, this is available to everybody, again, small lots.
Well, how many cases?
115 cases. We have a little bit left for the wine.
You have 2,000 members, you just said.
I do.
Thank
you, wine club members.
This is pretty much gone. So, if I wanted to become a member, what do I have to do?
Well, you can call the tasting room and become a member. You can go online to lrwine.com and become a member. Most of the wine club members that we have been to the winery or been referred to us from other club members. So it's a very personal experience. And each release we have a party for the wines that are being released. We pour a lot of wine for the club members.
How many releases are you doing?
How many parties? Well, so we have 12 parties a year, one every month.
Yeah, me liking it.
So that's a lot of fun.
So
we expect you to be there, Didier.
And this is like a www.larochelwine.
lrwine.com.
Oh,
LR Wine.
That's the website.
That's the website. www.lrwine.com, and there's a section where you can click on.
Why you make it so difficult? La
because
Rochelle
we couldn't get La Rochelle.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Bastard. French.
I'm telling you.
Oh, mon Dieu. Mon Dieu. So, what is another question? I know that you are kind of a little bit do some philanthropy, and is there like a cause in particular you like to fight for, and what is dear to your heart?
That's not a question I expected. Good question. I went to college and graduate school to study literature. So being able to read, being able to function in society in that way is an important cause for us. We do a wine every year that our actual tasting staff puts together. Tasting room associates put a blend together for cancer research. My mother is a breast cancer survivor, and that's a very important personal cause for me. those two things are really kind of where my heart is at this point in time in my career. I think things will change as I grow older and other things happen, but right now that's kind of where we are.
Well, here you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Michel, Dan, very, very nice to meet you. Kim, very nice to meet you. I will make sure that, I'm going to Livermore and please. No. I will do it.
The invitation has been extended.
I will do it. And gentlemen, thank you very much. Now we're gonna have some try tips to go with the Pinot and all that.
Beautiful.
Probably keep going. But thank you again for joining us. Any more questions? You can follow us at Toot Street Social Club. And then, yes, I see you. And more questions, follow at La Rochelle, the tweet is
at La Rochelle Wine.
Or
at
the
SK Winery.
Okay.
At Lineage Wine.
All right.
All kinds of
so what you're sure of is
we're back in a couple of weeks too.
What you're sure of is a great time, some great wine, great people, and something a little bit different than what we're offering here in Napa Valley. Although Napa Valley is not that bad, believe me. But vive la différence.
Maybe.
Love you guys, and till next time.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.